Hello, my name is Angèle, and I'm here today with my husband, Phil. And we would like to share our testimony about how we became Psalter people. And the Psalter is the full rosary, which means all 15 decades of the Holy Rosary. And our journey back to praying the rosary, or maybe we should talk about what the rosary was for us in our childhood. What was the rosary for you?
The rosary for me was a funeral prayer. Everybody prayed it very intensely during the time when the people were put into the chapel when they died. Mm. And then on the funeral service, they also prayed that again, and also always before Mass there was a 15-minute prayer, and it was always perceived as annoying. Why do you have to repeat yourself like that? What's the whole point in this? I did not understand it as a child. I was not getting it. I was just like annoyed about this stupid repetition over and over and over again. It's like, what the heck is that? You know?
You had never really been taught or explained where it came from?
Well, I learned the rosary mysteries in religious classes with the priest. He explained the mysteries, and back then we only had the 15 because the new one was introduced in 2002, I believe, the Luminous. So I got educated on the 3, and I knew them, I learned them, and I remember when my dad passed away, that I still remembered those mysteries. And when it was up to me to pray for my dad in the chapel when he was there, it was my mom and me, and then the people from the town. And I started to lead the rosary without preparation, and it just had it still in me somewhere, hiding. Yeah. And my mom said, like, "Oh, you still remember that?"
Yeah, that's
and she felt very proud about that I still remembered the mysteries.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that a big deal. I just did the sorrowful mysteries or something like that, and yeah.
And you're Swiss. You grew up in the Swiss, the part of Wallis in Switzerland, the mountainous Alp area, very Catholic canton, and your grandparents grew up with the rosary every evening, right? Your mom grew up praying the rosary. It was that's just what everybody did, right?
No, they didn't. They didn't pray. During my time, they stopped.
Oh, I mean, your mom.
My mom, though,
she grew up.
She grew up with it, yes, and they had to do it every day.
After dinner, right?
Yeah, and they also had to go to Mass every day or so.
Yeah.
They had a really strict upbringing in regards of...
Almost too strict. It was very strict. Yeah. And maybe that's why she decided not to continue that tradition with you.
Could be, yeah.
I think a lot of people gave up the prayer of the rosary.
Because the strictness of those days.
Because, there was just too much doom and gloom. And...
So what about you? How did you grow up with the rosary?
It was the same for my parents. They grew up praying the rosary every day after dinner, my mom and my dad, French Canadians. And my parents had the grace to start, not at the beginning of their marriage, but once I was born, and I think I was 4 when they decided to start praying the rosary after dinner. And it was the rosary was the 5 decades. And it was something that was always done. And I loved it. I loved it as a kid. I found it beautiful. I think that was a special grace that I could feel the peace and the presence of Mother Mary, and to receive the desire to become holy, to become a saint. And I had always watched the movie of Fatima, where Mother Mary was asking the children to pray the rosary, and also of Lourdes to see Saint Bernadette. how Mother Mary taught her or prayed the rosary with her, taught her to do the sign of the cross, and she was always there praying it with her. And so, yeah. But it was always a struggle for me to have that kind of contrast of, at home, there's this tradition to be truly Catholic and to pray and go to Sunday Mass. But then as soon as I was in school, it felt like I couldn't live up to it. There's always like the peer pressure, and I was always falling back into the same sins. And it was like this struggle of the desire to be holy and just the inability to really live up to that desire. And then later on, it was, I think in the summer when I was 16, I had heard about Medjugorje and how Mother Mary was asking to pray all the 15 mysteries. So the joyful, sorrowful, and glorious mysteries of the Rosary. And so I had told my parents, it was a special grace that I received, and I told my mom and dad, I said, why don't we just try it? It can't be that hard. Let's try it for 1 week to do the joyful in the morning, the sorrowful at lunch, and the glorious in the evening. And we started doing this, and we just continued because we realized it wasn't that hard to do. And after that, I was led to a prayer community, and I continued to pray the 3 mysteries. And I noticed a drastic difference back then, that all of a sudden I wasn't committing mortal sins anymore. You know, it showed me that, praying more rosaries equals victory over sin and more grace. And then in the later years, when I stopped praying the rosary, thinking, I don't need the rosary. I can just go to Sunday Mass. That would have been in my 20s. That's when I really fell prey to the temptations of the devil and the ways of the world. And I slowly but surely lost my faith and started to live again a life of sin and not believing that sin is... not believing in sin. Just completely losing my way. And then we met. I was led to come to Switzerland, and we met. And when I first met you, it was so striking to see the statue of Mary in your apartment, because I actually thought I'll never meet a Catholic young man that is my soulmate. And I had to come all the way to Switzerland to meet you, right? It was so special to see that Mother Mary brought us together. I really believe she did it. And the thing that I started with my parents, funny enough, they continued. They never gave up on those 3, the whole rosary, the 3 mysteries. And to this day, my father still does the morning, noon, and evening rosary. And I really believe that his prayers and his faithfulness to praying the whole rosary every day brought the grace for me to meet you, or for us to meet.
Yeah. When I first met your parents, I got kind of like it was like a meet the parents story. I went to Canada at Christmas to meet the father and the mother of this lady here, and my brother-in-laws, they just warned me, like they were like, be careful. The father, he's an extreme guy. He's got a gun, and when you go on his farm, you better be careful, stuff like that. They were just joking. But I knew about the prayer stuff. And for me back then, it was just
too extreme.
Freaky. I was like, what the heck? They have a chapel in their house?
Yeah.
What is that? You know, you don't have a chapel. There's a chapel. There's a place for the chapel. It's the church. It's not in your house. You don't use your garage for a chapel. I found that so crazy that I didn't say anything though. But I really thought you were extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And I judged him for that in my heart. Just last year I told him, like, I'm sorry, I judged you in my heart, and you were always right. I'm like, I mean, look at me now. I'm where you're at. I have a chapel in my house.
Yeah.
Where I'm the same freak as like him right now, right? And I know that people think like that about me as well. If I would be open about all the details that I do, there's nothing bad that I do. I'm just praying. But,
Yeah.
But this was meeting the parents that were very Catholic, and we were not. Me, I was losing Jesus basically,
Yeah, we
slowly
lost our faith.
losing him. But I still had Mary on my side, like she mentioned before, the little statue of Mary. That's
Who gave you that?
my grandma. My grandma from my mom's side. She went to a shrine in Switzerland. It's called Einsiedeln, where you have
A place of pilgrimage.
there's a place of pilgrimage. No idea as a child where that was. But I had always that Mary at my side. Like from the minute she gave it to me,
Yeah.
I always had it on my night table. I was praying my night prayer before I went to bed, and I always was asking her to help me with my tests in school and so on. And I was just at the end of my final studies to become an electrical engineer, and I was able to bring my Mary with me to Zurich onto my night table. And when I showed my apartment to Angèle, it was basically hitting her so hard that I had that. And for me, that was nothing special. She was always by my side. So she kept me like a little dog at the, what is that called? The leash?
The leash.
All these days, yeah.
Yeah, she was always there, even when we weren't faithful. I know that now.